What is going on, everybody? Welcome to VORKATH versus ZULRAH. I get this question a lot, and finally a few viewers have been like, which one is better? What do you think? What's your opinion? Why is it better? So I've actually put together a little bit of information to help you choose, should you be camping VORKATH or should you be camping ZULRAH? We're going to go through a few things: access requirements, income and drops, combat requirements, and the pros and cons of each boss, and hopefully that will help us decide which one is actually better. So we're going to go ahead and kick it off with access requirements. We'll start off here with VORKATH's access requirements. So the first thing, and most importantly, that you're going to need is Dragon Slayer 2. 32 quests you'll need to do to be able to do Dragon Slayer 2. I'm not going to go through all of them, but here's a picture from the wiki that'll show you all the quests, and if you want to check it out, you can head over to the wiki and check it out. As for the skill levels, you're also going to need some medium skill levels: 75 magic, 70 smithing, 68 mining, 62 crafting, 60 agility, 60 thieving, 50 construction, and 50 hit points. None of these are boostable, so you have to get these levels in order to actually do Dragon Slayer 2, as well as, don't forget, those 32 quests that actually lead up to Dragon Slayer 2. As for ZULRAH's access requirements, you will need to do Regicide, which only has 3 preceding quests. Those are Underground Pass, Biohazard, and Plague City, so quite a bit shorter on the quest line there for ZULRAH. As for the levels that you'll need, are going to be 10 crafting and only 56 agility to do the Regicide quest. So in terms of quest comparison and access requirements, way less time for ZULRAH than VORKATH. Now, obviously, if you're a main account, this is not going to matter at all, because you're going to be doing those quests at some point or another if you're going for the quest cape, or if you're just looking to be some kind of high-level maxed main. As for a little bit of a side note, VORKATH, in order to get there fast, let's say with the Fremennik Boots 4, you have to have the Elite Diaries done to use those, and it will teleport you relatively close. Otherwise, you have to use the Lunar Isle Bank and get kicked off, all that. As for ZULRAH, ZULRAH does just drop teleport scrolls, and they also are able to be bought on the Grand Exchange, so very easy to access ZULRAH. Also, you can use the Fairy Ring, which is quite a bit farther away, but regardless, ZULRAH, as far as access, a lot easier to get to than VORKATH based on its location, how to get there, and the preceding requirements to actually access the boss itself. So in terms of access requirement, ZULRAH takes the cake on this one. Much easier to get there, so we're going to go with ZULRAH in terms of access. Next, we're going to check out some combat requirements. First up is going to be VORKATH. Now with VORKATH, you're probably going to want to have at least level 85 in all of your melee stats. VORKATH does use a combination of magic and ranged attacks as well as melee if you're in melee distance, so you want to have decent stats to camp VORKATH and do a lot of kills. Otherwise, you're going to take a ton of damage and your trips are going to be short. As far as range goes, also, you're going to want to have at least level 85 range, and that is if you're using a Dragon Hunter crossbow. You possibly could want to have higher to make your life a little bit easier if you're still using the pre-nerf Toxic Blowpipe. Obviously, that has been put on hold at the time this video is being made, so we don't really know what's going to happen with that. As for the prayer, if you're using melee, you're going to want to have at least level 70 for the Piety prayer, and probably rigor as well if you're using range, which is level 77, and a decent amount of cash to unlock the prayer. But if you don't have that, I suppose you could use Eagle Eye. Your kills will be slower. As for the other gear, BGS and a Dragon Warhammer if you do not have a Dragon Bane weapon, which is the lance or the crossbow. You do want to take VORKATH's defense down as far as possible if you're using a Toxic Blowpipe or any other ranged weapon. As for an amulet, if you're meleeing, you want to have the Salve Enchanted, which really isn't that hard to get. You can do the Haunted Mine quest to get that, or the Salve EI, which does need to be imbued, and you can do this at Nightmare Zone with points. Does take a little bit of time. And as for the combat gear, you are definitely going to want to have decent melee combat gear, because you want to try to have the best DPS that you possibly can. Void will work with melee, but you will take a lot of damage. As for ranged, Void is preferred. Elite Void, actually. As for ZULRAH, quite a bit less in the requirements department for combat. 80 plus ranged will actually do it for you. You can do ZULRAH pretty decently with only level 80 range and a Toxic Blowpipe. 80 plus magic, also not really too high of a requirement. Trident of the Seas can be used to start here, and that weapon fully charged is less than a mil or hovering right around there. As for the prayers, only level 45 prayer, and that would be for Eagle Eye and Mystic Might. Mystic Might is level 45, Eagle Eye is level 44, and for combat requirements, you can easily do this in regular Void or Elite Void. So, as for the combat requirements, once again, we are looking at ZULRAH to be the better boss than VORKATH as far as combat requirements go. Next is going to be our income and drops. For VORKATH, you have a guaranteed 24,000 GP per kill, and that is at the time of this video. That is 2 superior dragon bones as well as the blue dragon hides that VORKATH drops every trip. As for the average kill, you're looking at somewhere around 129,500 GP every kill, and that is based on the uniques added in there, but they will average out over time. As for the next point, uniques are few and far between, but they don't really matter. As far as VORKATH's income and drops, much more consistent than ZULRAH. There's also another perk here for the income and drops. It is great crafting resources for Iron Man accounts because of the dragon hides. VORKATH does drop a lot of dragon hides that are in noted form, green, blue, red, and black. So no matter the crafting level of the Iron Man, as long as you can make green dragonhide armor, you're going to get some crafting XP out of it. As for the elite clue rate, which is nice to have also on Iron Men because they do like to do clues and find some of those items in there, as well as normal accounts, the elite clue rate is 1 in 65, so not too bad. As for the income and drops on ZULRAH's side, your average kill is going to be around 31,000 GP, and this is because ZULRAH does drop between 100 and 299 scales every kill. As for the average kill, it's going to be a little bit lower, about 13,000 GP lower than VORKATH, 116.3 thousand. The uniques are more plentiful at ZULRAH because you will probably be seeing one, about 1 in every 256 kills, but they do play a part in the average value because of how much more common they are than the uniques at VORKATH. As for the teleports, it does drop the teleports frequently for easier access for quick banking, so that is on the drop table and you'll see those quite a bit. As for the elite clue rate, a little bit higher than VORKATH, 1 in 75. As for this one, I'm actually going to give the income and drops over to VORKATH because of the increased average kill and because it doesn't depend as much on uniques and because it is a great place for Iron Man because of those dragon hides. Next up is going to be my pros and cons for VORKATH. Now, I didn't want to do a super exhaustive list. This is just what's most important to me, and hopefully it can help you make a decision as well. As for VORKATH's pros, VORKATH is easy to learn. A lot of people think VORKATH might be hard, but it is literally the same thing over and over. VORKATH is also not rotation based. Now, there is a slight rotation. Every 7th attack, VORKATH will use a special attack, which is either the acid phase or the undead spawn, but it always comes in the same spot. If you get an undead spawn first, you know that the acid phase is coming next, and vice versa. As for VORKATH, the income is very consistent, and the uniques don't quite matter. As for the cons for VORKATH, starting gear is more expensive than you're going to see at ZULRAH, and you will also need higher stat requirements. VORKATH can also not be done on pures, so if you are a pure, VORKATH is something you will never be able to do. As for our pros for ZULRAH, it can be done in Void, which is a free set of armor. All it does is require you to spend a little bit of time. Now, on the contrary, VORKATH can also be done in Void, but it is a little bit more difficult and more strenuous. As for ZULRAH, the low overhead cost definitely plays a part in this. A toxic blowpipe and a trident as well as Void armor is really not going to run you that much, probably between 5 and 6 mil, so very easy to start. The income, just like VORKATH, is also consistent, and it can be done on pures if you didn't know that. I used to have a 20 defense pure, which had no problem doing ZULRAH. I've also seen 1 defense pures with pretty high KCs. As for the cons, ZULRAH does have a higher learning curve. There are different rotations that you will have to learn, and you'll have to learn where to run and where to stand, which can be a little bit cumbersome because it will take you a higher than average amount of kills to actually learn how to do ZULRAH. That also comes along with the memorization of rotations. If you have a bad memory, you're going to spend a lot of time learning. Maybe you have a good memory and it doesn't take you that long. Uniques do play a part in the income because they are a little bit more common than VORKATH's uniques, and it also does require more attention. So if you're looking for one of those AFK bosses, ZULRAH is probably not for you, especially because on the mage phase, ZULRAH can also mix in ranged attacks, which do hurt quite a bit. So which one is actually better, VORKATH or ZULRAH? I'm actually going to tell you that it depends on your account and what you're looking to get out of your account. If you are a main and you're looking to make some money and make more money, VORKATH is definitely going to be the one for you because you probably can afford that higher tier gear that will make your kills faster and a lot easier. But as for ZULRAH, ZULRAH can actually be done at a very low cost to start up. It will allow you to rebuild from pretty much anywhere in the game as long as you have a few million GP to spare, which, let's be honest, is really not hard to make nowadays with the way that the market is. I will say this though, they are actually both viable for certain rebuilds. VORKATH is actually very viable for a Dragon Hunter Lance rebuild. If you do dump your bank for a Dragon Hunter Lance, you can easily go to VORKATH and make somewhere between 2 and 3.5 million per hour, depending on how efficient you are. So if you're dumping your bank for a Lance and then you want to rebuild, great place to do it because you can make actually a decent amount of money back to get into something like the Chambers of Xeric to continue your rebuild at maybe a little bit higher of a tier. As for ZULRAH, ZULRAH is a fantastic place to dump your bank and then rebuild with a T-bow. Twisted Bow does work on all 3 ZULRAH phases, so it doesn't matter if you don't have magic that you can use there. ZULRAH is great for a T-bow rebuild, and VORKATH is great for a Dragon Hunter Lance or crossbow rebuild. You're going to see a little bit less profit with the crossbow though, because of the price of Dragon, Diamond, and Ruby bolts. So I know this wasn't a super exhaustive list of literally every point that can be made about VORKATH or ZULRAH, but this is the way that I look at both of these bosses, and this is the way that it would help me decide which one do I want to camp. So I hope that you can take the points made in this video and decide where you actually want to spend your time to maybe build your bank up. If you liked the video, please leave a thumbs up down below. And if you haven't done so yet, please tap the subscribe button on your way out. If you'd like to support the channel in a greater way, you can also become a channel member. This will give you exclusive access to community member only posts as well as in-game events with me. Thank you guys for watching. As always, I will see you next time. Take it easy, everybody.